Alright, everybody, welcome back to yet again another video, and today we are doing our 2023 review with the Nashville Predators today. So, the Predators, they were a team that came close to the playoffs. They really did. And I thought they had a really good year. They had some points where they struggled a little bit and they faced a lot of injuries. But coming to the point where they were just barely like 3 points out of a playoff spot, I think they did a pretty good job at trying to catch Winnipeg for that spot. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, but big props to them. They went 42, 32, and 8 this season for 92 points. They had a .561 win percentage. They scored 229 goals and let in 238, and they were a -9 overall. Their record at home was a 22, 15, and 4 record, and their record on the road was a 20, 17, and 4 record. So, of course, the Predators faced a lot of staff changes heading into this coming season, 23-24. Of course, following this year, David Poile has retired as the general manager. He's been the GM for the entire history of the Predators, and Barry Trotz has come in to take his place, and I think that's a really good move for Nashville. As well as that, too, they fired John Hines as their head coach, and they brought in Andrew Brunette. So I thought they made some pretty good moves there. In bringing in those guys. Of course, when you look back at Florida, I had a lot of faith in Brunette and him becoming a really solid coach, and I'm glad that he finally got an opportunity, because when you look at what he did in Florida, he did a pretty good job, and if you thought that was kind of mid, he helped the Devils be really good this past season. So definitely a good guy to bring in if you're the Nashville Predators. Their month-by-month goes as follows. They went 1-5-1 in October. They did not have a good month in that first month. They went 7-4-1 in November. They went 6-5-4 in December. They went 9-4-0 in January, 5-5 in February, so a complete 500 record there. And then they went 8-6-2 in March, and then the end of the season they went 5-3-0. So really, what kind of affected them was February and October. They started off the year pretty rough, and then on top of that, February was a 500 month. Apart from that, every single other month, they actually were pretty solid, and they were very close to Winnipeg. Let's say if they won 2 or 3 more games, they would have Winnipeg's upper hand there in making the playoffs, definitely. Not saying it would have been a good thing because, of course, Vegas is there, but, that is something to keep in mind, of course. Their players. And look, as I said, they faced a lot of injuries this past season. And I thought that, with the amount of injuries they had, they came pretty close. And I think it kind of goes on John Hines as well and how good of a coach he is. Surprised he didn't get a coaching job this year. I believe all the slots have been filled besides Columbus, but we already know Babcock's probably going to be the one that's hired there. But anyways, the leading scorer on Nashville was Roman Josi with 67 games played, 18 goals, 41 assists for 59 points. I thought Josi had a good year. Not a Norris caliber year like previous seasons, but still had a pretty good season overall. Matt Duchene, the guy on the back of this jersey, he had 71 games played, 22 goals, 34 assists for 56 points. I thought Duchene also had a really good year, and for a guy who, was looked at to be like, his contract's way overpaid, he did have a really good season for Nashville overall. Then you got Tommy Novak, who was one of those players who was not really known coming into this season, but made himself worth this year. Novak had 51 games played, 17 goals, 26 assists for 43 points. I thought Novak had a pretty good season. Played well when he played, and I think he probably will get a slot next season. You got Philip Forsberg up next there with 50 games played, 19 goals, 23 assists for 42 points. Again, I thought Forsberg also had a really solid season for Nashville. Kind of a weaker year, but he was hurt for the majority of those games, about 30 games there. Cody Glass then, and Glass is a one big one with me because he actually fought through the ranks to get up to the training camp and made the team, and he had a pretty solid first season when you really look at it. He's the only one out of all these 10 leading scorers to play a full 82-game season. In that 82 games, he had 12 goals, 18 assists for 30 points. It's a good start. He was looked at to be a really hyped-up player on Vegas. Didn't turn out to be that, but hey, you look at this year, it was a good start. Hopefully under Andrew Brunette, he'll play better. I have a lot of faith in Cody Glass and him being a really solid player next season for sure. Colton Sissons, apologies, I got the ones mixed up. Sissons was the only one that played a full 82-game season of these top 10. Their names are so close together, I mixed them up. Apologies. Sissons, 82 games played, 12 goals, 18 assists, 30 points. I thought Sissons also had a really good year on Nashville, but, 30 points in 82 games isn't the best. Marcus Johansson then, 55 games played, 12 goals, 16 assists for 28 points. I thought Johansson had a pretty solid season as well. Kind of a weaker year overall from him, but I still think he played all right. Parsonen, you saw Parsonen, I thought had a good year as a rookie. 45 games played, 6 goals, 19 assists for 25 points. Jakob Trenin then, 77 games played, 12 goals, 12 assists, 24 points. And then last but not least in that top 10, you have Ryan McDonough, who had 71 games played, 2 goals, 18 assists for 20 points. So overall, that's your top 10. Of course, I'd like to mention that, of course, Sissons was the only player to play a fully 82-game season of all those. The next one was like 72, or 77, sorry, then 72, and then I think the other ones were in like the 50s. So they faced a lot of injuries, and especially towards the end of the year where they were making that playoff push. It's surprising they went 5-3-0 in the month of April. Even if they won like 1 or 2 or more of those games in April, they would have made the playoffs for sure. No doubt. Definitely. You look at your goaltending, and Jose Saros had yet again another good year in Nashville as that starter. 64 games played, 33, 23, and 7 with a 2.69 goals against average and a .919 save percentage. Again, Saros another really solid goalie, one of those high-end goalies in the NHL. And if we're being honest, he is part of the reason why they stayed in the race for so long, pushing for a playoff spot. Kevin Lankinen then was next, and I thought Lankinen, he came in this year, his first season. I actually thought he had a really good year, and I think he's proved himself to be a solid goalie in Nashville. 19 games played, 9-8-1, a 2.75 goals against average, and a .916 save percentage. Again, I thought Lankinen, coming from the awful defense in Chicago, came to the solid defense in Nashville. I thought overall he had a pretty good season, and I think that is something to look on for better direction in the future. Trades. And trades were interesting. Nino Niederreiter went to Winnipeg, so they sold off. They sold at the deadline, and they still came really close to a playoff spot, which I thought was awesome. But Nino Niederreiter to Winnipeg, of course. Tanner Jeannot, they got a haul for him in this year's deadline to Tampa Bay. Matthias Ekholm to Edmonton, and Mikael Granlund to Pittsburgh. So overall, for David Poile's final trade deadline, I thought he did an amazing job. I think of all 4 of those, I would consider W's for him. W trades. I thought they were all really good trades. And you look at their draft picks, too, that's where it's at. But anyways, this season's gone. It's behind you. Let's take a look at the offseason now and see where the Predators are going for the future. Draft picks, as I mentioned, they came out pretty good. They have literally they have literally 7 picks in the first 3 rounds. You got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 3 third-round picks, 3 fourth-round picks, 2 fifth-round picks, and 1 sixth. So they have a lot of draft picks in this year's draft, so they're going to get some more young capital to this roster. And when you look at some of these old guys, you got Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg, Johansson, McDonough, just to name the obvious old players. You bring in some more youth into that lineup, which they've already have been. Guys like Novak, Glass, Parsonen, you're bringing in younger guys into this lineup, and Nashville getting more picks in this year's draft, it kind of makes their future look even brighter from that perspective. As it goes for like UFAs and RFAs, they have $15 million in cap space. So I'd imagine a lot of these guys, they won't have problems with signing. Their only UFA is Zach Sanford, who I believe they got from Winnipeg. So we'll see if they keep him around. But your RFA list is much heftier. Rasmus Asplund, Cody Glass, William Carrier, I believe Nolan Foote, and Drew Livingstone there mark out your RFA. So no big names there besides probably Cody Glass, but I would imagine probably the majority of those guys stay around. They'll get most of them qualifying offers, but overall, not that harsh of an offseason in that area for Nashville. But yeah, overall, I like Nashville's future. I like where they're going from here. Some of their future players they got coming up who haven't played yet. Zachary Leheroux. He also is one of those notable guys. I know there's some controversy going on with him in the queue, but and then Evangelica as well. Luke Evangelica, I think it is. So yeah, they got some solid guys coming up into that roster. But yeah, I think Nashville has a bright future ahead. Got to look at this year's draft, see what they do in free agency. And, they got guys like, Askarov coming up. They could trade Saros. There's some questions, but nonetheless, I do feel pretty good about Nashville's future. So make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. We have one more team before we are done with the non-playoff teams. We'll start getting into the playoff teams probably next week. We won't finish. I doubt it. But still, we'll try and get there as close as we can. But overall, still thought that the Predators had a solid year. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.